what's up? It's Breyonna. So y'all told me that I should try out the Colourpop High Tide palette because you said it was going to be totally me. So I picked it up at Ulta, and then apparently Colourpop decided to send me the full collection. I didn't realize that there was a full collection to this. I only thought that there was an eyeshadow palette, but apparently later on they launched 2 other items. So we're going to be trying those out as well in this video. But let's just say this palette, like these are my kinds of colors. Like this palette's very like smoky yet colorful, which you guys know is my vibe. But before trying this out, I'm gonna say I don't know if it's gonna have a good formula or not, because sometimes these kinds of colors, they can be like really bomb and amazing, or they can give a lot of harsh lines and can be really finicky. I have high hopes for it though, because again, Colourpop does have one of my favorite formulas, but you never know. But this color right here, this dark one, it's calling to me. And also like this lighter matte shade, that one looks super pretty too. And again, with this collection, we also have 2 other items. We have a Creme Gel Liner set, and this one is called Hang Teal. And we also have a Super Shock Shadow Duo set. And I don't know if you like this too, but I love this like sliding packaging. It kind of gives it like this bougie kind of like experience. I don't know about you, but I just like it. But we have a darker blue shade in here, and then kind of like a seafoam green. Again, I'll be doing swatches later on in this video. So I just pried my eyes off camera, but like I'm having such a hard time figuring out which shade I want to go in with first, because I love this like grayish blue color called Flora. It's just very different looking, but at the same time I love the greens in here, so I'm just like really torn. But I don't know, you know what, we're just gonna go in with the greens, because again, like I feel like that's gonna fit like the High Tide kind of vibe. So I'm first gonna go in with this lighter one called Currants, and I'm just gonna be taking this shade on this brush from Anastasia. It's an 826, and I'm just gonna pop it right in my crease. Ooh, that has a lot of pigment right away. It's definitely kind of like a seafoam green kind of shade, just a little bit lighter than the typical one. But I am going to go in with a second layer right away. My hair is like drying, so it's doing like this weird thing right now, and it's driving me nuts because I don't want to pin it right away when it's kind of like wet still, because then I'm going to get like weird dents and I don't want to deal with that. So it's going to be an experience. But man, like that's a really fun color. Again, it's almost like a seafoam green with like a slight neon pop to it. And it's blending out really nice too. And again, this is going to be acting as our transition shade today, so I'm just going to bring it all the way up towards my brow. I'm just going to take a little bit more on my brush. Wow, that is such a fun color. Like this really just kind of gives me like beachy vibes. So now I'm going to start deepening up that crease, and now I'm just going to go in with this kind of like bluish color, like deeper blue in the palette, and this one's called Urchin, like a sea urchin. I will warn you, this one's a little bit powdery in the pan, but I'm just going to be taking it on this brush from Anastasia. It's an 825. Let's see how this applies. Ooh, that's a little bit sheer right away. So I'm going to go in with a little bit more. Yeah, so it seems like this shade has a little bit more of a buildable formula to it. Honestly, I'm going to assume that all the shades in here do have a buildable formula. So I'm going to go in with another layer. Oh yeah. But even though it has a buildable formula, it's not giving me any harsh lines or chunkiness, and this is one of those shades that can be really hard to work with, and it can just look really patchy and chunky, and I'm not having any problems with it so far. It's applying beautifully. It's kind of like one of those shades you just apply, do a couple circles, and it's already blended, which is really nice. So I'm just going to go in with a little bit more. You see what I mean? Like it just looks really nice and even. I'm also kind of rounding out the outer V a little bit too. And then I'm just going to go back in with that brush that we applied Currants with no additional product on it, and I'm just going to kiss the edge. So now let's deepen up the crease even further, and I'm just going to go in with this really dark shade in the palette, and this one's called Lunar, and it's kind of like a grayish kind of color that has like a bluish, kind of like greenish undertone. You know what, I'll show you here in a second. But I'm just going to be taking it on this brush from Morphe. It's an M507, and also this shade is super powdery in the pan. Like it's kind of getting everywhere. I'm just going to lightly pop that baby in my crease, and I really like that color. Again, it's kind of like a greenish, kind of like bluish kind of color with like a gray kind of vibe to it too. Very interesting color. Has a slight buildable formula to it, but I'd say out of the 3 shades that we have used, this one is definitely the most pigmented. I'm just going to, again, take whatever's left on my brush and kind of like blend it upwards. I forgot to mention, this is my third layer right here. But you can see it doesn't look like chunky or funky. It's giving me a really nice blend. But to even further blend it, I'm just going to go back in with that brush that we applied Urchin with. Again, nothing additional on it, and I'm just going to kiss the edge. So I just cut my crease off camera, but I'm just going to go in again with a little bit of Lunar on this A13 brush from Anastasia. It's just like a little shader brush. I'm just going to pack it right on that harsh line of the cut crease. But you see what I mean though? Like the shade's really, really pigmented. I'm just like pressing it in too. Again, with this shade, I'm not going that far in. I'm literally only packing it on just to kind of like blend it on this outer edge. Because I want to use a lot of different shimmers today. Especially since we have those Super Shock shadows to use. And speaking of Super Shock shadows, let's go in with one. And again, this is called the Wave Breaker set. And oh, I just love the packaging when they do these little sliding things. But the first one that we have, oh, give me a second, I need to open it. So the first shade that we have is this really pretty kind of like deeper blue, and this one's called Coconut. I don't know why they would name this Coconut, because I mean literally nothing about this screams coconut to me, but I guess we're just gonna roll with it. And this one just looks so beautiful. Ooh, like I took my finger in it and I mean like look at the reflect. But let's see what it looks like on the back of my hand. I love that color so much. And then the other one that we have is more of like a greenish, kind of like brighter seafoam green kind of shade. Again, it looks very sparkly. And this one's called Sure Thing. Ooh, I mean, like, look at that. I love the like super sparkly Super Shock shadows. They're like one of my favorites. But I mean, oh, these are so pretty next to each other. And then this is what they look like up close next to each other. I don't know what it is about Coconut, but I'm gonna go in with this one. I don't know, I just think it looks just very different, and it just has a certain vibe to it that just is drawing me in. But I'm going to take it on this flat shader brush, and I am not going to apply it damp. I'm just going right into the pan. I'm just going to apply it right next to Lunar. Ooh, I really like this shade next to it. It looks so pretty. Yeah, I need a little bit more on my brush. You could also use your fingers if you want. I just prefer applying these with a brush. I feel like I just have a little bit more control. And also, since I did cut the crease, I do want that sharper edge on the top. But yeah, like this one's definitely more of like a satin formula. Because you can see it has a little bit of a sheen to it, but it's not like super sparkly. Definitely more of like that wearable kind of vibe. Which honestly though, I wish that this one had a ultra glitter formula to it too. So for the rest of the lid, I'm just going to go back in with a palette. I'm going to go in with this really pretty shimmer shade in the center right here. And this one's called Must See. But C is spelled like a C, you know, like S-E-A, like water kind of C. I think that's just really cute. But again, this is kind of like a seafoam green kind of shade. But it looks super sparkly in the pan. And again, I'm just going to be taking it dry on a different little flat shader brush. And I'm just going to be popping this, again, anywhere that that base is still showing. And that is really, really sparkly. Again, it's not like the glittery kind of sparkly that Colourpop has with some of their shimmers. This one's more of like that wet sheen, but it does have a lot to it. It's in between like a wearable shimmer and the super extra sparkly metallic ones. I'm just taking whatever's left on my brush and kind of lightly going over Coconut. I'm just going to go back in with that brush that we applied Coconut with and then kiss the edge even further. So I just did the rest of my face off camera, but let's start working on the lower lash line. And I do want to go in with one of the Creme Gel liner pencils. And the set that launched with this collection is called Hang Teal. And both of the liners in here are not limited edition. So the first one that we have is kind of like this seafoam green color called Zulu. Again, both of these are matte. And then the next one that we have is a little bit deeper, and this one is called Catsuit. I've never used Catsuit before. I have it, but I don't know why. I just have never used it before. Ooh, I like that color. And then this is what they look like side by side. And again, both of these are 100% matte. There's absolutely no shimmer in them. So I'm actually going to go in with Catsuit because, again, I've never used it before. I just want to see what's up with it. So I'm just going to run it right underneath my lower lash line. Ooh, it's pencil is super creamy. And then I'm just gonna blend it out using this brush from Colourpop. This is a E29. It's just a really small little shader brush. I'm just gonna buff it down. Honestly, like, that color fits perfectly with the vibe. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it or not, but I really like it. And then using that brush, I'm just gonna take a little bit of Lunar and pop it as close as I can to where my lashes grow up. And then kind of smoke it down a little bit. And then I'm just gonna go back in with Currants on this Morphe little shader brush from the Madison Beer collection and smoke it down. And I'm also kind of like setting the liner with this too. So for the inner corner highlight, originally I was going to go in with a shimmer, but honestly I kind of want to do a matte inner corner highlight, you know, just for something different. So I'm going to go in with this kind of like lighter shade out of the palette, and this one's called Just a Splash. And it's kind of like this minty, kind of like grayish kind of color, but at the same time it's a little bit more on the whiter side. It looks just like a very interesting shade. And it is one of those mattes that does have shimmer in it, so I'm just going to be taking it on this Anastasia A14 brush. I'm just going to pack it down. Ooh, that's really cute. I thought I was going to apply a little bit lighter than it is, but you know what? For a different vibe, I kind of like it. You know what? I wasn't going to use Zulu on the waterline, but you know what? Why not? So, let's see how it looks. At first, I thought I was going to kind of like mash with everything and it wouldn't give me like a lighter inner corner and kind of like blend in with the deeper that we have underneath. But honestly, I think it looks really good. Okay, but this matte inner corner highlight is everything. I don't know what it is about it, but I feel like it just gave this look like a different kind of vibe. But let's talk about everything that we used today. And of course, let's start with the eyeshadow palette. And I gotta be honest, I think this palette is just really fun and different. But at the same time, I feel like this is a very niche kind of palette. Like, this isn't something I see everybody really enjoying because it is very smoky and colorful and it just has a very interesting look to it. But I will say, for being so different, it actually is one of those monochromatic palettes you could really do a lot of different types of looks with it. Like, you get these like greenish colors, you get like gray based colors as well as some blues. Like, I just feel like you can do a lot of different types of looks with this one. Because sometimes I feel like with Colourpop's monochromatic palettes you are very limited, but with this one I don't feel that way. But formula wise, again, like, the mattes are very easy to work with, they blend it out really nice. They do have a little bit more of like a buildable formula, so if you don't like building up your shades, you might not like these ones because of it. And I will say the shade Lunar, the deepest one in here, is a little bit more pigmented than the other two that we used, but again, it did not give it any harsh lines and it wasn't tricky to work with. Like, even if you're a beginner, I don't think you're going to struggle with that deeper shade unless you're like a true beginner, like never really dipped into an eyeshadow palette before. But if you've used some eyeshadows and you've used deeper shades before, I don't think you're going to struggle with it whatsoever. As for the shimmers in here, I only used one because I did want to go in with one of these Super Shock shadows. But the shade that I did use out of this palette, I thought was really cute. I thought it had a nice, like, beautiful wet sheen kind of vibe to it. It's not like the glittery kind of shimmer that Colourpop sometimes has. It's definitely like that wet metallic kind of vibe. As for the Super Shock shadow that we used in Coconut, I think it's a really interesting shade. It's kind of like a smoky, deeper blue with like royal blue sparkle to it. It just has a really cool vibe to it, and if you're into deeper colors, again, you'll probably really enjoy it. And also, I feel like it's one of those shades that would look amazing with warm tone browns like the Wild Child palette. The only thing that kind of bums me out about this little duo is that one of the shades in here, Coconut, again, is available on Colourpop's website, whereas the other one called Sure Thing, now that one is exclusive to this little duo. And I wish that they would have included, you know, two that are, you know, specifically like unique to this set, because I feel like that just kind of fits the collection a little bit better. As for the Creme Gel Liner set in Teal, again, really cute, love the colors, and also the formula is matte and just really creamy, and you guys know I really like the Creme Gel Liner pencils. But again, both of these colors are things that you can already get on the Colourpop website or they have previously launched. Like Zulu, I'm not too sure if you can get this one on their website. I didn't see it, but I do know that it launched with the brush roll that launched during the Fade into Hue palette. So I'm not too sure if you can get this one as a single still, but I remember buying it years ago and I got it as a single. So I think it's one of those things that kind of comes back and forth. And also Catsuit I did get in that brush roll. So I don't know, like, I just wish that they would have done like exclusive colors. Again, it is kind of nice that they are permanent things, so if you like it a lot, you can repurchase it, but I don't know, I kind of like exclusive things and like limited edition with collections because I think it's almost like more fun in a way. So when it comes down to it, would I recommend this collection to you? Honestly, I think it's all really nice and really cute, but I will say this is definitely a very niche kind of collection. I don't see everybody really enjoying it. Like, you really have to like darker, smoky, bluish greens and, you know, that kind of vibe. But if you do and you're like me, I think you're gonna be really happy with it and you're gonna really think it's a really unique vibe. And honestly, out of everything, I would say the palette is probably my favorite, and then the liners are the second, and then lastly, I would say the Super Shock shadows. Again, I like the Super Shock shadows. I'm just one of those people. I usually just gravitate towards a palette rather than these unless it's kind of like a lighter, icier kind of color. But yeah, so in the comments down below, let me know what you think about this look, and also let me know what you think about this collection and if you're going to be picking it up or not. But as always though, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and also give this video a like. And if you'd like to check me out over on Instagram or TikTok, it's at Breyonna as well. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!